It is true that some people survive school. Some people earn good student status. They're liked by their teachers. They like their teachers and their classes. Some people even learn how to get opportunities from school and build good relationships. What's also true is that many people don't survive school, not emotionally, not economically, not in terms of certain life skills. For many of us, as children in schools or having children in schools, what we experience or see is an overshadowing of creativity, of confident autonomy, and a replacement or a focus on standardization in ways that are harmful to some young people, toxic even. And when on top of all of that, you show up in brown skin, the realities that are evident and pushed through how white supremacy shows up in textbooks, how white supremacy shows up in legal realities where people of color especially are most vulnerable, are young, are basically going between being disregarded and being targeted, right? We're either labeled in a negative way or we're being targeted to be part of some pipeline or food in some ways for the system. For many families, this is the reality that the youngest people among them are facing every day. We have these romanticized ideas of what school is or what school can be. And the reality is that even when it is that for some, there are many who will not survive it. Even when they survive it through their bodies, what it does psychologically, what it does financially when you talk about college debt, all of those things are spaces where some people are not built to thrive. And instead of us trying to figure out how to fit more people into the system or get more teachers of color into the system, we have to be part of a different vision, a vision that many of us are living out, a vision that is really a revisiting of a very old way of being in community with young people, where we trust them, where we trust how learning happens organically, where we realize that we can't do it in our own homes alone, that we have to nurture collectives, that we have to know how people in different towns and different cities are finding ways to create co-ops and nonprofits and their own learning spaces that really protect young people as they develop ways of learning how to be with themselves, learning how they learn best, learning how to self-organize with other people to get projects done, how to address and name and solve the problems that are being faced in their own communities without being busied by spaces that were never even built for them in the first place. So when we talk about why unschooling is liberatory, why it is about liberation work for people of color in particular, for Black folks, for Indigenous folks in particular, the reason that it is so is that it gives us an opportunity to stop putting energy and focus on the system and instead understand how to observe emergent structure, how to support it, how to be part of it, as our young people show us what freedom needs to look like for them. Because a lot of us who come into unschooling and other forms of self-directed education, we come to it from a space of doing our own deschooling, our own sort of freeing our minds, our own disengaging from all of the things we've been told and taught, and a reimagining of what our lives can be like, and a sense of ownership of our life experience, a sense of mindfulness, right? And so when we do that, we have to be really careful that as we are waking up, as we are embodying ourselves, as we are coming out of hiding, as we are learning more about ourselves and our communities, and we start to become organizers and learn how, to be together and develop language and practice for being together. If we keep using tools of oppression, then we can't raise free people. If we are doing this work and not affording this level of freedom and mindfulness and partnership to our youngest people, our children, whether we are parents or educators or just village members, aunties, uncles, all of that. If we are waking up and that waking up is not being extended to our young people, we are still forcing them to dress how we want, to talk how we want, to show up how is comfortable for the people around us, to go to school whether they want to or not. And we're not exploring the alternatives to that when they're clearly showing us that it's not working for them. Then we are not raising free people. So liberation work specifically for us, and I speak for myself as a Black woman, right? As someone living in America, primarily as an immigrant, as a mother of 2 daughters, as a life partner to 1 man, and seeing all of the intersections of the ways that I identify and the ways that my daughters, as a result of them telling me and telling my partner that they did not want to be in school. And us finally figuring out how to stop trying to silence what they were saying or contort them a little differently, get more involved in PTA or, do all the things. We started to realize that we couldn't do the work inside of that system. That's not what they were calling for. That would not be the best use of our energy. And a lot of you have had that experience as well. So this is why this is liberation work. And because we are learning how to do it collectively, it is becoming accessible for a lot more families. It is not something that is the same as like Montessori or private school where it's a lot about tuition and affordability. That's not what unschooling together looks like. It looks like cooperatives where people are figuring out who works which hours so that they can be together with children. It's park days a couple times a week where families and children can play and talk together and strategize together. It looks like learning centers that are structured legally as schools, also finding creative ways to make sure that people can afford to send their children to the school. They have sliding scales that allow families to pay a few $100s a month and lend their time instead of their dollars in ways that some people can do, in ways that some families are finding useful. So the single mother can benefit from being in community with a married couple because they have a little bit more access to resources where they could pick up her son and drop him off every day so she doesn't have to worry about aftercare or before care or transportation. This is how it's happening. This is how it makes it liberatory for us to be together and to nurture learning the way that our children are showing us they need it. So when that question comes up about whether unschooling in particular or self-directed education in general is affordable for marginalized groups and whether it's something that Black people in particular or Indigenous folks in particular or other people of color can do, yes. Because we are figuring out exactly how to do it in community. We are deciding against the school system unless and until our children choose it for themselves. That's the work and the walk, and that's very much a liberation walk for many of us. Join us over at Fear of the Free Child podcast, where you can hear our stories, vast and varied as they are. No one story represents the entire movement of raising free people. It's collective, emergent, ever-evolving narratives about the ways that we are learning to live in partnership with our young people and, to be in guidance together so that we can be free together and grow together. Yeah. My own way of experiencing and even defining unschooling has changed so much over the years. Today, I see unschooling as a lifelong practice of developing and gaining confidence in child-trusting, anti-oppressive, freedom-respecting love-centered relationships with children. And unschooling for me now is not merely about educational choices, but about liberatory relationships and healing from trauma turned parenting style. So what is liberation? The definition that resonates for me is a sense of ownership of oneself, right? Being free to make any choice you want is one thing, but feeling like you are using that choice in favor of yourself, that you're not just doing what you have to do, you are doing what feels right for you and yours. That feels to me like liberation. When you live how you want to live, not necessarily where you want to live, but how. In terms of living your politics, in terms of being free, in terms of being out of hiding,